Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Jim Reads Too Slow. I'm Jim, and this is my February Fantasy Stories wrap up. Uh, February Fantasy Stories, of course, is an event organized by the Bookish Bryants to encourage the reading of fantasy. During the month, we read short fiction, works under 250 pages, mostly short stories. So, to catch up, week one was dedicated to classic fantasy. That is anything in the genre published before 1971. Week two was sword and sorcery. Week three was dark fantasy. And week four has been urban fantasy, which of course I kind of bailed on. Around the end of week three, beginning of week four, I caught COVID. So then I thought I was getting better, and I really wasn't. So it really kind of cut into my reading. Um, it really suffered. So I did manage to finish a couple of stories, though. But first of all, what is urban fantasy? Well, it's fantasy that takes place in or that intersects with our world, our modern world. Like you're walking across a deserted bridge in the middle of the city one night, and a troll jumps out of a manhole at you and attacks you. Or you're chatting with the human skull on your shelf one evening about how effective the Yellow Pages ad for your wizardly private eye business is going to do. Um, so I managed to read the first two stories in Jim Butcher's collection Side Jobs, which are stories that take place between the novels in the Dresden Files universe series. I read A Restoration of Faith and A Vignette, which is a very short story. Not much, I realize, but then I have read each of the Harry Potter novels, and that's plenty to convince me that urban fantasy really isn't for me. A Restoration of Faith is Butcher's first short story, one that he doesn't really think a lot of, but it's entertaining enough. It's about Harry Dresden trying to get this jaded runaway little girl back to her parents, who have, in the meantime, double crossed him and his partner and reported the little girl kidnapped. Uh, in the process, though, he restores her faith in people. Vignette is the conversation I mentioned with the skull on the shelf, and that's pretty much it. That's the whole story. But with urban fantasy, we're asked to believe that two mutually exclusive universes, one of which has disproven the possibility of the other, that these universes not only can exist side by side, but that some of us can have a foot in each and run around having these dark fantasies or dark adventures, fantasy adventures. We're asked to suspend our disbelief, and I can suspend disbelief with the best of them. I can enjoy some real crap. But this just asks me to do it to a degree beyond what I want to. Now, like I said, it's not for me. I mean, if you enjoy urban fantasy, read it and enjoy it. I just prefer my fantasy to take place in its own world and time. But other than that, I had a blast this month. I read some Ursula K Le Guin, always a treat. I discovered Lord Dunsany, uh, Clark Ashton Smith, Robert E. Howard, come on, Conan, Solomon Kane, Michael Moorcock. I read my first Michael Moorcock novel. And I'll come back to all of these writers knowing that I will be entertained. So I want to thank the Bookish Bryants for organizing this event and for allowing me to be a part of it. Also, I should add that my wife, in solidarity with my fantasy reading, read the entire Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. All 5 books currently available during February. She definitely does not read too slow. So, Denise, I salute you. Now I will turn my attention to March and March Mystery Madness and March of the Mammoths. I'll probably do a video on that pretty quick, so I'll just say that I intend to start out with A.A. Milne's The Red House Mystery. And also I will once again attempt to read Middlemarch by George Eliot, diving into this 838-page Penguin Classics edition. So, that being said, until next time, this has been February Fantasy Stories. Like I said, I enjoyed every minute of it, except for when I got sick and stayed sick. So until next time, have a good one, BookTube.